Today on Cosmic Disclosure, we are with Randy Cramer, who claims to have participated in a secret space program called the Earth Defense Force. Randy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Emery.
From your experience in the Earth Defense Force, what are avatars and what way were you exposed to them?
So essentially an avatar is, like in the movie, it's a teleoperated drone. So if I were to break it down super simple, if I go out to the store and buy a drone, I've got a control mechanism and I have a remote drone of which I'm controlling. So in this case, we're talking about the drone being a biological shell with a control mechanism in the brain, which is essentially sending the same signals from my brain to that brain. So the control mechanism, the remote control, is my brain in a teleoperation bed, transmitting that signal to the computer-brain interface that then controls the biological drone in exactly the same way that I would control my own body.
How long does it take to grow these drones?
Depends, but from what I understand, most clones or biological drones can be grown in a rapid, acceleration process that can take less than 72 hours, from what I'm to understand.
Now, are you feeling as well in the actions of the avatar, such as if the avatar broke its leg? Do you feel that pain?
Yes, it's a two-way sensory experience, meaning I am feeling the sensory experience of the drone. If the drone gets stabbed, hit, burned, I feel that. If it gets bone broken, I feel that. Transmit. No, nothing actually happens to my physical body,
right.
But you feel the experience. It still hurts. Yeah.
Now, from what I've gathered in the projects, they have informed me that it's not a direct line of sight frequency. It's somehow through with infraspace, where the messages and the connection, is it a conscious connection or more of an electrical scientific frequency connection?
It's technological. The cerebral interface is a piece of hardware. Mm-hmm. My understanding is it's used a sub EMF frequency, or what is often referred to as a subspace frequency. So it's not using what we think of as the normal electromagnetic spectrum, but it is using a signal that can transmit for hundreds or even thousands of miles, so that you could be aboard a ship in orbit, teleoperating a biological drone on the surface of the planet beneath you.
Now, could you actually operate more than one?
Not me personally that I've ever done. I am to understand that there are extraterrestrials who use this same technology, who have the ability and the brain power to control multiple drones at the same time. It's a technology that we originally saw from the Zetas using it. They often, when they come to visit or extract someone or abduct someone, they're not actually physically present. They're teleoperating a biological drone, and in some cases they're able to control 5 or 6 drones at a time for one cerebral consciousness.
Do these avatar drones have a central nervous system? Do they have a digestive system? Do you have to eat while you're in these avatars? What's the lifespan of the body?
So they're basically a clone, and so they have every biological biological function that a normal living organism of that species would have. So central nervous system, organs, digestive system. You have to stay hydrated. You may have to consume protein or food depending on how long you're away for somewhere, how long the mission is. So they're like a body that you have to maintain.
I've also heard that sometimes when the drone is killed and you're back in your body, that sometimes you have a memory deficit, that you only remember maybe 20, 30% of what had happened, or sometimes you don't recall the mission. Is that true?
So there is a buffer. That's interesting that you would bring that up. There is a buffer in the cerebral interface, so that everything that's happening in that brain is being stored locally in the drone, that is then getting transmitted back to your body as the data stream has the allowable bandwidth to be able to do that. So it is possible to have the body be damaged and find yourself back in your own body before the buffer has had its chance to upload back to your body. And so you might miss some gaps. Wait, what was just happening? I remember something, but I got my arm blown off, but where was I again? Yeah, it can be a little confusing if you have a sudden break, call a sudden break with the drone. You can come back and be a little discombobulated. Again, because there's a memory buffer. So these tall Nordics, they use a regeneration technology that's basically a crystal bed. So it's like this giant crystal bed and chamber, and you slide someone in it, and then they refract some lights through the crystal, and then it does something super magical and restores anything and everything. Pretty interesting.
Have you studied this device?
No, I haven't studied them. I've seen it. I've looked at one. It was very fascinating. I was completely intrigued.
So let's get into more detail about these tall Nordic beings. Like, what do they look like?
I'd say they tend to be in about 6.5 feet tall. Their variation in eye color tends to be blue, green, lighter colors. Don't tend to see too many like dark brown or darker colored pupils. They tend to be lighter colors. Some of that probably is living subterranean as well. Some of the pale skin is probably from that. Even though they do have these artificial fusion devices, which is essentially an artificial sun, stuck up in the ceiling somewhere. It's often still not quite the same as living on the surface. They tend to wear robes, which is the standard intergalactic wear because it's easiest to make, it's comfortable, they're not so
Do they look in
fashion-forward.
shape? Are they more rounder, more skinnier?
They seem actually really skinny and lean to me. They don't have a lot of muscle mass or muscle development on there. I would presume, and this might not be true, I would presume that in a wrestling match I would win hands down in a physical matchup, but I'm not sure that that's 100% correct.
What do they eat, and what's their customs?
Mostly vegetarian diet, apparently. They're super big on, growing their own food and eating mostly vegetable matter, mushrooms, fungi, stuff like that. They're not big on meat.
How are they growing this food underground without the sun?
Again, artificial fusion device, which acts as a sun, does the same thing so that you get full spectrum light that can, again, grow plants, spinach, broccoli, so forth.
Yeah, I've been exposed to a lot of the white papers from down there that they're using chemogenesis, which is the chemicals and minerals from the earth to sustain life.
Right.
Did these beings did they know about the other beings, and did they ever interact with other inner Earth being, or are they just kind of compartmentalized to this section of the planet?
Oh, they're pretty aware of the others. There's some territorialism, so there tend to be areas in which, the Nordics live and the Raptors live. The Raptors don't tend to like other people in their territory, and let's just say the civilians among the Raptors might find you tasty as food if you did. So you're not advised to wander into their territory because you might end up on the menu. But it's not a thing that they eat people. It's just more of a thing that if you wander into their territory, it's like a pig wandering through your front lawn and go, oh, bacon. And so.
Why do you think they're there?
Oh, they've been there longer than we have. They're evolved from, some dinosaur species, so they evolved hundreds of millions of years here before we did.
Do they have, and I'm talking about all the beings we've mentioned, and you can start with any of them, do they have access to, Terra, to the Earth surface? Is there a way for them to come up?
Yes, yeah, they have access, but in the same way that not every person on the surface gets to go down. Not everybody who lives down there gets to come up. So it is a barrier. You have to be allowed to go from up here to down there, and you have to be allowed to come up from down there to up here.
What is down there?
Giant monsters.
And who are they, and why are they here?
They're a natural defense mechanism from the planet. They've been here longer than any of us have, or since before the dinosaurs even. These are creatures that go back millions of years potentially and have been living there for a very, very long time. My personal encounter with them is they're highly intelligent. They're not animals unintelligent animals or beasts. They're highly intelligent, but by looking at them, you might refer to them as a beast or a monster, and I guarantee you a living creature that's 200 or 300 feet tall, that's, several 100,000 or a million years old, has a consciousness that probably defies understanding from me or you anyway.
How long have they been here?
Millions of years, probably even maybe since the beginning of the planet.
Could you give me an example of what one of these giants looked like?
Sure. I've only had one personal experience that I can relate. While I have been briefed on the subject and I could describe a few other things, I only have one personal experience that I was there for, saw with my own eyes, and experienced with my own five senses. So if you want to imagine something that resembles a big furry primate, maybe like a sloth that walks on its hands and is covered with hair that looks like giant dreadlocks. And if you can imagine a strand of woven hair that's, about 3 or 4 feet in diameter or more and over 100 feet long, that starts whipping through the air, and that's not like getting hit with a dreadlock. That's going to be getting hit like with a 20-ton cable. So it has the ability to basically, swirl and spin its body in such a way that these hairs go flying around and would knock out aircraft if, you were trying to attack it with helicopters or jets or something like that. Could knock a plane out of the sky or crush a tank probably or something like that. Exactly
how tall do you think, could you estimate?
I would estimate that it was probably between 250 and 300 feet tall. This is definitely in the deep, deep pockets. So we consider the network in which some of these other species, the shorter, more our-size ones, we refer to that often as the Agarthan Network. There is a deeper set of pockets that we think of as deeper than that, and that's where these things live, in an even deeper pocket or series of pockets.
How do they grow to such an extreme size, and why aren't we not seeing them on the surface?
Well, I think we're talking about pre-primordial time, so we're talking about before the dinosaurs, when plants and animals were even larger. So I think we're just talking about they came from a time when biological life grew bigger. I mean, we don't have, if we had a brontosaurus that we could genetically engineer and bring to life, it would starve to death because there simply aren't plants that grow big enough for it to eat. It would need a bigger food source, a bigger vegetation to survive.
Right, and the mineral content was much higher back then, and the atmosphere was thicker, so the radiation,
All factors that would dictate what biological life would look like and what its characteristics of survivability would be.
Do you think they have lungs and they're breathing the atmosphere down there?
You can hear them breathing. When you're close to them, that's one of the distinctive characteristics is you can hear them breathing.
What about the smells? Did you notice that smell?
Yeah, really like the stinkiest primate that you could imagine because it's large, yeah. I don't know if it ever bathes. Very smelly.
What was your personal experience with it that you had?
I don't know how comfortable I am discussing that completely and intricately. Let's just say that it became a requirement for me that I had to get to a certain place, which was across this expanse. And the only way that I was going to get across this expanse was if I rode on something that could walk that expanse. And it's a complicated story how that all went down, but yeah, there was something going on there.
Was it positive or negative?
Very positive. Terrifying. Good. Absolutely terrifying. Crap my pants terrifying, but very positive.
Were there others like you that were there?
No, none that I could see or were aware of. It was very dark, but I don't think so. I think it was not a place where humans or other beings want to go because you get stepped on. I mean, when you realize you enter into a cavern where you're this big compared to something that's this big, it's terrifying because all of a sudden you realize I could get stepped on at any second here. So it's a whole nother kind of biological concern. It sort of made me think like, oh, so this is what a mouse feels like when it's running through the kitchen.